So, welcome to the new summer season of Gap Talk Show, bringing you the latest news from the advanced packaging industry. And in case you missed our announcement, we moved the weekly news from Wednesday to Thursday.
Be sure to subscribe to our newsletter or visit our website at globaladvancedpackaging.net.
That's great. Let's get on with the show. Okay, so Jillian, I am talking to you today on location. I'm out over in Connecticut in the United States. I'm on the same side of the pond as you this week. so so let's see what the big stories have been this week. And I want to start off with something that was brought to my attention about the changes in advanced packaging lithography. It's no more one size fits all. For years, the lithography tools were judged on the same yardsticks, i.e., the resolution, overlay, and throughput. But the rise of panel level packaging is breaking that mold. Instead of chasing a single, most advanced platform, the industry is now matching different lithography approaches to different packaging strategies. And what I mean by that is, like, for example, scanners or large area precision are going, they're looking for large area precision. Steppers are looking for more cost efficient volume. Mask aligners are looking for thicker resists, and maskless digital systems for fast, flexible chiplet designs. So that move is showing up now in how equipment makers are positioning themselves. And what I mean by that is if you look at ASML, they're pushing scanner precision into advanced packaging. Nikon, the camera company, is betting on digital and large area lithography. And Canon, on the other hand, is focused on cost-effective, high-throughput production. And then EV Group, they're looking to integrate more lithography with hybrid bonding. And SUS Microtech, they're building out flexible packaging solutions. So with TSMC and Samsung, Intel, and SK Hynix all chasing different packaging roadmaps, the big question is whether advanced packaging becomes a multi-platform market, where the winning tool depends on the job rather than one dominant standard for everyone. So that's my take on it this week. What are the other big stories that you've found this week?
I would say the biggest story from this past week has had to have been TSMC's latest investment in Arizona. So the company just announced an additional $100 billion with a B, billion-dollar investment, bringing its total Arizona investment to $265 billion. So this investment will go towards building a total of 12 new advanced semiconductor manufacturing and packaging facilities. And I'll be so honest, when this news came out, I really thought it was an old story because TSMC has already invested so much money into its Arizona campus already. But no, they really did just commit another $100 billion. And this is just a week after they announced new facilities in Taiwan, the ones that we covered in the last episode.
I know it seems like we're talking about TSMC every week these days, but
Yeah.
yeah, they are the gorilla in the room, aren't they? But
Mhm.
like several of the other announcements we've covered lately, this is a big step forward for securing the American semiconductor supply chain, especially in regard to the advanced packaging side. While the US will probably never onshore all of its advanced packaging, it's still extremely important to spread out capabilities across the world because one geopolitical conflict or natural disaster can severely disrupt a supply chain, just like we saw during COVID-19.
Yeah, and I really think the industry has been placing a huge emphasis on nearshoring since COVID. But another for TSMC's major investment is that 75% of its total revenue comes from North American companies. And I was
Mm.
surprised to learn it was that high when I was researching for this story. Like, on one hand, I was surprised, but on another hand, it makes sense.
Mhm.
But not only is this a win win for the US supply chain, it also helps TSMC further cement its future and its relationships with the big hyperscalers in this country. So it's a very symbiotic relationship.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense because, of course, this is where all the hyperscalers are based, isn't it? Um,
Yep.
yeah. So, speaking of expansions, Tower Semiconductor just announced another expansion in Japan. Tower Semiconductor is an Israeli foundry that specializes in analog solutions, and they have facilities in both Israel and the United States. Their Japan operation will serve as an advanced R&D and manufacturing center for 300 millimeter silicon photonics, silicon germanium, and advanced optical packaging capabilities.
Yeah, and I'm not sure how familiar you are with Tower, but they became the majority owner of Panasonic Semiconductor back in 2014. So this company has had strong ties to Japan for a while now. But for this new facility, it's expected to be a $4 billion US investment in total. 3 billion will be coming directly from Tower, and 1 billion will be coming from the Japanese government.
Right.
And just like we saw with the TSMC expansion that we just discussed, one of the primary motivators behind this is for the Japanese industry to further secure its own domestic supply chain. If I could summarize the last few years of this industry in two themes, I would say unprecedented growth and supply chain security would be at the top of my list. Um, but basically, what this expansion does is it takes Tower from a more niche analog foundry and positions it as a problem solver for AI data centers, since they'll be developing and integrating photonics to solve the bandwidth problem we see today with AI.
Okay. Well, to answer your question, how familiar am I with Tower? Pretty familiar actually, because I'm one of the shareholders. So they've been
Oh,
they've been on
there you
my
go.
radar. They've been on my radar for a little while. So there you go.
Gotcha. Yeah.
All right. So M&A news now, and Diodes have just announced an agreement to acquire Elevate Semiconductor for 250 million in cash. Elevate makes specialized testing chips that make sure complex AI and automotive semiconductors actually work before they're shipped to customers. And they're specifically built for the ATE market, the automated test equipment market. Diodes, on the other hand, is a global provider of analog and power semiconductor solutions. Jillian, can you tell us about the significance of this acquisition?
Yeah, of course. So, in short, the reason Diodes acquired Elevate was to expand its own analog and mixed signal portfolio while also solidifying itself in the ATE market. So, when people think about AI or other advanced applications like automotive or whatever, they usually focus on the companies making the GPUs or the chips. But as these chips get more complex, testing them also gets harder and more expensive. Um, so Elevate basically designs the tiny chips that go inside of the testing machines in order to make them work. So by acquiring Elevate, Diodes gets a direct foothold inside the equipment that every single chip maker must have access to in order to test their next generation AI and automotive solutions.
Right, right. Yeah, no, that's certainly an interesting development. In other news, MKS announced a dedicated laser applications laboratory in Darmstadt, Germany.
Yeah, there has been so much going on in Germany these last few weeks. But just like the previous stories we covered, this is another supply chain story at its core. Just to summarize, lasers are crucial for advanced packaging processes like TSV drilling, wafer dicing, etc. But it's important to remember that lasers do not behave the same way on every material. So if a company decides to change the type of glass or resin or whatever that they're working with, a laser with the wrong pulse frequency could burn or warp the material. So this new lab in Germany lets packaging engineers run trials and fine tune their laser recipes more or less on real materials locally in Europe, because in the past, MKS specifically was solely reliant on the US for this process. So by having something more accessible in Europe, it really cuts down on the logistical burden of refining the laser recipe.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense. And to provide a quick overview of some of this week's other news highlights, Vico just sold a Gen 2000 molecular beam epitaxy system to Inolium for use in their optical transceivers and silicon photonics applications. This points to the increased demand for optical connectivity for hyperscale AI infrastructure and cloud data centers.
And finally, we wanted to shout out EV Group for its recent awards. The company recently announced that it topped the rankings in the 2026 Tech Insight Semiconductor Supplier Awards. But more information about Vico and Inalum and EVG's awards can be found in this week's newsletter.
Great. So that's it for this week. If you like this podcast, please like and subscribe on YouTube. And remember to share this with your friends in the industry.
You can also watch or listen to this podcast and our future podcasts on YouTube, LinkedIn, Meta, X, and all your normal podcast locations like Apple and Spotify.
Great. Well, that's it for this week. Thank you very much and goodbye.